Great to see a buzzing room. It's a bit of a drizzly, dark day this morning, so hopefully we can have a nice, dry and warm time together in here. My name's Yaz Bryan, and I'd like to start with a really warm welcome to you all, and a really big thanks for being here today for the Boys at the Crossroads conference, organised by Bristol Young Men's Network. We've got a really full day ahead of speakers and workshops, and we hope that there's plenty in the schedule that's going to leave you all feeling inspired and hopefully connected with each other too. Before we crack on and tell you more about the day, I'm going to first invite Carl, one of the organisers, to share a few housekeeping points with us all.
Okay, thank you, Yaz. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. My name is Carl Bowie. I'm one of the youth service managers here for Creative Youth Network. And so welcome to the station. This is an amazing building. It's 10 years old now in its current use, although it's obviously a lot older. It was an old fire station. And it's one of the a major youth hub for working with young people in Bristol. Really. It's the central one, although there's lots of other good provision around in other areas. In terms of the housekeeping, we're not expecting any fire alarms or drills today, so if it does go off, it's for real. There are fire exits, as you can see, probably all around, so over there, a bit like being in the plane, really. Over to the right down here, behind the station here is behind the stage, sorry, there to the right of the stage is a fire exit as well, and there's a fire exit up through the door when you came in. If the bell does go off, if you just make your way out of the front entrance primarily, or if you have to go out this way through the gate at the end, and just meet up opposite the station on the road opposite. In relation to things like toilets, there's a range of toilets on all the floors you're going to be working on today, so there's accessible large toilets behind me here. There's another set as you came in through the front door, and then if you're working up on the first floor in rooms, there's a whole room full of toilets opposite the stairs, on the top of the stairs. So yeah, I think that's about it. As I say, we're not expecting a fire, but if it does start to feel unnervingly warm in here, that's likely to be because the content is shit hot. So back to Yaz, and enjoy your day, and welcome to the station.
So in terms of logistics for today, hopefully you've all been able to access the live programme on your phones. If you haven't, you'll see QR codes across the tables. You can scan those and you'll be able to pull the programme up. And if you're active on socials, we'll be using the hashtag Boys at the Crossroads that's up on the screen, and we'd invite you to do the same. We are going to be recording the presenters of the main sessions, and all of you who registered through Eventbrite will be sent links to those recordings as soon as they're available. Shortly we'll be hearing from Lewis Wedlock, who'll be delivering our keynote opening speech, and then we'll be moving into 2 periods of parallel sessions where you basically get to choose your own adventure, and then we'll be coming back together for lunch at 1:20. After lunch we'll return to parallel sessions before we take a short break, and then to close the day we'll be back in this main space for our keynote panel, followed by a closing plenary. Now, while we're here together as researchers, activists or practitioners, it's important to recognise that the topics we'll be talking about can still have some resonance for us personally. I know they do for me. So I want to start with offering a content warning that we will be hearing about and maybe discussing topics that include references to sexual harm, sexual violence, domestic abuse. And I'd ask us to commit to looking after ourselves and looking out for each other. And if any of you find that you need to take some time out or a break at any point, we'd absolutely encourage you to do so. Up on the first floor, we've got a befriender and chill out space available for your use throughout the day. So today's conference has been organised by people with lots of different interests and expertise, as I can see there is here in this room, right? And I volunteered to support the conference as a facilitator because I'm both a survivor of childhood domestic abuse and I've worked extensively on the front lines of domestic abuse, homelessness, mental health, drug and alcohol recovery, and as someone who grew up in the underclass as a queer person of mixed heritage, I'm acutely aware of the complexities of how masculinities are both constructed and policed. And I mean policed in the widest sense of the word. So I'm really looking forward to learning more today from all of our speakers. On the Young Men's Network team, the people who've organised this event for you today, we have people from a range of local organisations. And I'd like to introduce you to them, and I'm going to ask them to give us a quick wave so you know who they are. So we've got Abdallah Abdirahman, who's over there. He is a local student at the University of Bristol and also involved in Cornerman, and we'll be hearing from him in one of the parallel sessions and later today at the closing speaker panel. We've got Rachel Potter from Cooth, who's over there at the back. And we've got Tom Antavy from OTR Bristol, who's over there. Alex Greenwood from Tiger, also in that back corner. Carl, who gave us our housekeeping, who's from CYN, who's from here. Martin White, who isn't here with us today, but has been part of organising, is from the Department of Health and Social Care. And then we've got Nate Eisenstadt from the University of Bristol. You'll get to meet many of them as they'll be facilitating and supporting sessions throughout the day. And if you have any problems or questions as the day progresses, please feel free to reach out to any of them. So I'm going to hand over to Nate to tell you a little bit more about why the Young Men's Network came together to organise today's event, and I hope you have a great day.
Wonderful to see so many people here today. From the frantic emails and text messages I was getting over the last couple of days saying it's sold out, I was half expecting to see people hawking tickets for 3 times the price but maybe they'll be on eBay next year. So you're not going to believe this, but as Me Too was really starting to take hold around 2018, 2019, obviously 12 years after it had started by Toronto, but I honestly thought to myself, you know what, maybe this gender-based violence thing, this harmful masculinities thing, maybe there's enough people working on this. Schools and workshops were clamouring, schools and workplaces were clamouring for workshops, and even the materials that we were using in our own workshops were becoming rapidly out of date. So kind of harmful adverts, the toxic culture, the rape culture, adverts and video clips, the media representations were changing. And I thought, yeah, maybe these things are being pulled, maybe I should move on, put my efforts into something else. You know, we have enough people on this, we're going to sort this one. Yeah, I guess very, very wishful thinking. Yeah, some great stuff is happening, some really inspiring, some really innovative stuff is happening across these sectors. And we're going to hear about some of that today, and really looking forward to those conversations. I guess it's also worth noting that we're also seeing a backlash from the pseudoscience of people like Jordan Peterson, positioning wounded masculinities as somehow rooted in a misguided conception of human nature, to the more explicit proponents of misogyny that Andrew takes. We're seeing a great defensiveness to a perceived loss that arises from the call for equality. And this is a defensiveness which is rooted in pain and sadness. It's rooted in these emotions which boys and young men are trained to push away. And it's a response which is being mobilized. It's recruiting those young men who are feeling that way. So how do we meet that pain and create accountability? How might we practice equality in ways that feel mutually liberating? These are questions that we can only really address together. And by together, I mean those of us who come to work with boys and young men from the perspective of men's mental health, and those of us who come to work with boys and young men from the perspective of ending gender-based violence. And these two terrains shouldn't be separate, but often they are. Often anti-violence work can be perceived as finger-pointing, shame-inducing, inattentive to the struggles that boys face, while men's mental health work can be perceived as inattentive to the privileges men and boys are bestowed with, whether or not they experience that privilege as a privilege or not. So Bristol Young Men's Network formed in 2018, really to link up activists, practitioners, academics, and young people who work with boys and young men around these topics. Shout out to John McGurk, who got the ball rolling. And I guess one thing that became instantly apparent was that the network was bringing together these two often separate spheres of praxis. And it's led us into some tricky conversations, some uncomfortable conversations, and some stimulating conversations. And it's really what's brought us here today. We've tried to create this connection with this conference. So today we really invite you to traverse those boundaries in the sessions that you choose to go to. Maybe if you look at something and think that's not really my approach, then maybe that's the one to go to. And if you can stay for the closing session, please do. That's where we're going to kind of bring together our shared reflections and learning and do some of that kind of more participatory stuff and think about these questions of what's up, what's good, and what's next for work with boys and young men. So finally, just to say a huge thank you to the organising team. Yaz has already mentioned everyone, but we've really been tirelessly working to bring this together. Rachel, Abdallah, Tom. This conference was Tom's idea in the first place, I think. So big up for that. Alex, Martin, Carl, and also Matt supporting us here at CYN. It's been a proper team effort. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first keynote, Lewis Wedlock. Lewis's accolades are multiple. He's one of Britain's youngest university lecturers. He's an activist, academic, social psychologist with interests and expertise in masculinities and intersectional youth work. Lewis, over to you.